chance. Okay, welcome back to part 2 of our LC Roundtable. Still waiting one more guy to come back in. But yeah, we're on our question time, and we're going to carry on with our next question is: do you prefer to be NLC and NLC only, or do you prefer a counter position? If so, why would you go to do? I mean, sometimes you've got no choice, right? Sometimes you by default. But if you have a choice and you have a full staff, would you rather be an LC and overseer, or do you want to get your hands dirty and be a position coach as well? Anybody want to step up? Adam?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm very fortunate at the Exiles that I'm surrounded by talented offensive coaches. So, I've got Zach Ritchie, who's my quarterbacks coach, Nick Cullens, our running backs coach, and then our head coach is also our offensive line coach, John Moore. So that leaves me with receivers, which is my position anyway. That's the kind of position I specialise in out of them all. If I had the choice, I think if I was just thinking about it, like with any team, if I was just going to join a random team, I quite like the idea of just being able to float around and help all the positions. But at the moment, I'm actually quite enjoying doing positional stuff, and I have no desire to anyway, but I have absolute faith in my coaches anyway, that I don't need to micromanage what they're doing. Whereas at the university level, I might have new coaches that I haven't coached for very long, that I might need to be a bit more hands-on with them, keep an eye on what's going on, coach them up to make sure they're doing the right job. But like I said, fortunately at the Exiles, I can actually get my hands dirty, as you put it, coach the receivers. We are, a premiership level team, so we're not doing the bare bones and bare basics. We're doing top end sort of stuff. And then as the practice progresses, we do indies, and then when we go into like running stall, another coach will take the receivers to do one-on-one blockings or one-on-one passing game, and I'll actually oversee the running stall with the offensive line quarterbacks and the running backs, and then try and make sure that I'm there for all the important bits, so to speak. Like I said, in theory, yeah, it'd be great to just be a sort of overseer, offensive coordinator. But at the moment, I think I'm in quite a perfect storm where I've got 3 very high-level positional coaches that I can trust, which allows me to really focus on the specialism that I can do, and then bring it all together and essentially coordinate without having to worry about all the little nitty-gritty things. I can just worry about putting a game plan together and the overall install. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it'd be the same for me. Like, my ideal would be to float. I've never been lucky enough to find that situation yet. So at Samuel, I was looking after QBs and receivers, so I could kind of package that pass game up a little bit. What that did mean is that, excuse me, I had to put a lot of faith into my line coach and my running backs coach. Luckily, I had very good ones that I've known for a while and trusted. So I could kind of leave those to get on with the run game coordination part of it. But I definitely felt as the season progressed, there was a little bit of a detachment between the run and the pass game. I think I naturally gravitated more to the pass game because I knew it with a more interpersonal connection with it. So I definitely think that affected me going through the year, and that ultimately is why I would like to float, so that I could spend more time with the different parts of the offense and get to know them a bit more in depth.
I'm kind of in a unique situation. So just from the head coach, the play caller, and I coach quarterbacks. I have a really dedicated, really kind of talented coaching staff around me, which kind of help ease that because it can turn into a lot. But yeah, it was something I was taught when I kind of first started out coaching offense is, it may be old school, it may be whatever, but if you're calling the plays, you want to have that kind of direct contact with the quarterbacks so that you guys are on the same page. So I know that if I'm calling something and the guys aren't kind of liking it or responding it, or they're seeing something different, I have that kind of relationship with them where they're going to tell me straight up on the side, hey, this isn't working. I'm getting this look. We were expecting this. So I think that one-to-one relationship with the quarterbacks, because essentially those are the guys. We can call whatever they want. They have to be running it. So I think that relationship kind of works well. Not to mention, I'd probably get bored and just kind of struggle floating around too much. So least keeps me a bit more focused to practice.
Grant, the question was, do you prefer to be a floater around OC if you have the opportunity, or do you prefer to coach a position?
There we go. So I do a bit of combo. So like I'm really regimented in our practice plans, and I kind of sort of like lead that with the defense and make sure that we're matched up. So in our schedule, I mean, I've got a whistle guy that blows a whistle every 10 minutes to make sure that we stay on track. But what I tend to do is if there's like a bit of an install bit, I try to have like a bit of time with the QBs and running backs working on mesh points in the read option to go through that. But then I try to then get all of the positional coaches to really take what they need to do because where the plan is like, we will be really structured where this week we are doing the outside run. So everything that's tied in together. So I like to be able to sort of like coach the coaches and make sure that what they're doing is we're getting reps, and we're if their coach is like, hey coach, like let them practice, like bring this guy over here, like let's keep the tempo and get as many reps as we can. So I like to combine between the two. And when we go to our Skelly session is we run a pass Skelly and run Skelly at the same time, and then we switch the players over, so everyone's getting to do both. I tend to do one where I do a run Skelly with the starters and all the guys that are in the starter roles that week for practice. And I work with the QBs and like look at that run and work with the O-line. And then when we go to pass Skelly, where we've got no offensive line, I still let the assistant OC, my wide receivers coach, she's still calling the plays. But I'm just like, I've stood like directly behind the QB. I'm looking where he's looking, trying to see what he's seeing. So then when we talk about decisions afterwards, we're able to be on the same page. I know why he made that decision and I know where he's looking. But also I'm not worried about anyone like being in a zone. So I'm then looking at, okay, well, look at these other spaces where we could have worked together. So just trying to get a good balance of both. Answer it.
I also want to say there that Ram had a great point about you kind of gravitate to what you coach. Is that I know for the fact that when I'm coaching running back, I will gravitate towards the run more, just because you know that unit more than you know the others. That's a good thing there, right? That's got me thinking there. So, well next question is: how do you schedule your practice time, especially during the pre-season, like for install? Is there a certain way you have to do it, a way of doing it, or do you mix and match it, or is it all like regimented? Or whatever you feel to do it. Anybody want to step up? Coach Edwards, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take this one. It kind of fits. So I have two essentially base installs. So we kind of rotate. So if practice one is install one, everything we're doing is built around install one. So everything we're doing in indie periods, everything we're doing in team, Skelly, everything like that is all built around install one. So we're teaching the guys exactly what we're expecting in terms of like indie period. And then when we're getting into more kind of install and kind of routes on air and that type of thing, it's just a set install that we have. The best advice I could kind of give anybody that's wanting to become an offense coordinator is the best advice I got, and that was script absolutely everything. It is so easy to get caught up in the moment of you're at practice. Oh, I've had this idea. Oh, we want to try this. I found that if I have a set script for everything, whether it be a walkthrough, whether it be Pascal, and just run down that script, I know when I've kind of thought about it before practice that we're getting the work in on everything we need. We're going to get everything on film that we needed to work that week. So I found that scripting absolutely everything, every play, kind of to the detail has really been helpful in getting the most out of the install, because obviously our time is limited. So you have to maximize that time, and that's kind of how we set that up. So.
And then if I can add on to that, so I'm the same mindset. I like everything. I need to know exactly what we're doing on every play. Now, what I now do, and it's something that I've recently done, and it changed my practice incredibly. So I scripted everything, but what was happening is like players were getting rotated in and out. So I've got drags, but I've got maybe my fourth string receivers that aren't very fast running these drags. So now when I go to my team session, when we go full 11 on 11, like I'm scripted 35 plays and I've scripted which players are in it. Now, this also gives me a really good opportunity to increase participation at practice, because if you have not responded to me by midday on the day of practice and our midweek, you're not on team session, because I need to know who's going to be there so I can make sure that I balance the reps, that my starters get their 8 reps, the backups get their like 5 or 6, and then the rotational guys get 1 or 2. So guys are like, yes, I will be at practice, so they're on. You get guys that haven't responded, like, well, why am I not in team? I was like, well, if somebody needs to take a rep out, you can jump in, but next week, respond to me, tell me you're coming to practice. But I found that we're able to then, on a game situation, when you're going for your verts, you've got your fastest, best catchers, your tool guys, you're going to put them on. So rather than sort of having a combination of, you speak to the QB and he said, why didn't you what was the issue? Like, because that was open. He's like, he's not going to catch it. It's like, well, that's his problem, but I need to set up my starters. So I have my starting QB with my starting receivers, and then my 4th string QB with my 4th string offense. So we're not wasting reps. So yeah, I found that made my practices so much more efficient.
Just kind of building off the back of that as well, we found we do something similar, but we'll kind of script it in like pods or sets of plays, because we found it helps massively with like trying to play at tempo. So obviously it's building in that conditioning where guys are going to have to play 5, 6, 7 plays back to back as quick as possible, and then we'll have set rotation points where, okay, we've run that 5 or 6 plays, whatever it was supposed to be. Okay, now we rotate, and then we just run right back through that same 5 or 6, because obviously on game day there's 10,000 different things. You can have a guy take a shot to the knee and he's now hobbling off and he hasn't gone down. He's just kind of forgetting everything you're telling him. And now you're trying to still play at tempo, but get somebody else on there and adjust all of that stuff. So we found it helps with kind of mechanics of translating from practice to a game in terms of substitutions, playing at tempo, and then making sure everybody's getting the right amount of reps.
All right, yeah. Very good. Moving on. Anybody anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Grant and Levi was just saying. I'm not a big script guy when it comes to games. You know, I might script the first 4 or 5 plays just to get the looks, but when it comes to practice, as Grant was saying, I like to have everything detailed down to the last detail, really. So I will script team, and kind of like what Levi was saying, where I think he was implying it, and I hope I'm agreeing with him here. Once you've scripted what you're doing, everyone on the staff should know what it is that you're preparing towards, as opposed to just having a 50-page playbook and you're just picking and choosing on the day. Now your indies don't match, and without trying to broad brush entire britball, but what I've often seen is positional coaches doing indies that are generic indies. Running back coaches teaching handoffs and how to cut and stuff like that. And then when it gets to install, that's it. That's the offensive coordinator's job. Whereas everyone on my staff here, like I say, I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by very talented positional coaches that I script. They know what the script is in advance, and they know they need to learn this, and this, so that when it gets to our script period, which is either on air or 11 on 11 or whatever it might be, they've already learned everything they need to learn. So it's not a case of, we've almost removed install as a period, like where we just get 11. At university, we kind of still do it because you have to with the kind of guys you get. But with the Exiles, we don't get 11 people and just do install anymore and learn the plays. They already do that in their indie work, and then they do that in pass skelly, run skelly, inside run. But when we get to 11 on 11 or just 11-man script, that's it. We're just trying to smash through everything, just get everything on film so that when we can coach it up afterwards. And things like that. And all I would add on top of it was one thing we've introduced to the Exiles this year is we've started practice a half hour early, and we have a classroom session on the day. And obviously with this COVID stuff, we've done a lot of Zoom calls in absence of practices. But in January, February, before this all hit, we practice at 10:30. But now everyone knows they need to be there, sat down in the classroom next to the field at 10 o'clock. And I have 20 to 25 minutes with them, giving them the entire picture. So do the whole thing. So we teach them everything that we need to as a whole. This is what the offense are running today. Like Levi was saying with install one, whatever that might be. Then they go out, they do indies, the part stuff, and then by the end of the practice, they'll be back to the whole thing again. Everyone knows what they're doing.
Pre-practice practice. That's what it's all about. That's the future. Pre-practice practice. Okay. Ryan, anything to add, or are you basically covered?
I'm actually the polar opposite, so I don't script
That's what I was waiting for. I know how you work. That's what I was like. I'm not going to ask him or not, but yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I don't script. I have the plays that I'm installing in that practice, and I have things that I ask the coaches to cover off in their indie periods. But in terms of kind of indie periods, team periods, I like to treat that as practice for myself. So we did run a lot of situational stuff. So what I didn't want to do is script that ahead of time. I wanted to kind of train myself that in that moment, okay, now I'm in 3rd and 2, where's my head going? And I felt that I wasn't coaching myself well enough when I had a script in front of me. So I've moved away from script and done a lot more on themes, and then when I'm calling, it's more my game plan and then gut feel on how it's going.
When you find that, I mean, this is like in a game week, really when you're scripting and scouting, it's basically for your own good, right? Once you get to the game, the game film, that script never gets looked at, does it? Nobody looks at the script. You just go, study. So I mean, you do what you want. That's what I do anyway. Okay.
Truthfully, that's why I don't script.
We go with the best intentions in mind, but I can promise you that once the game kicks off, you know with your gut. And in my experience, it's always worked well for me. So I think your gut knows the answer to most questions. If you know what you're running and believe in it.
Yeah, I would just add, sorry, Dave, that pre-season is different to in-season, isn't it? So
I did say pre-season. It's okay. It's a good answer. We've all gone.
Yeah, so for me, pre-season, that's where I'd sort of heavily script because it's all about install, isn't it? So, but yeah. Ryan's absolutely right. Situational stuff is so important, whether that's, attacking a small section like 3rd downs, or whether it's what Levi was saying in terms of running the tempo like it's a normal series or something like that. That's something where, I'll try and coach it like I would do on game day in terms of just trying to call plays for down and distance as it would be. I'll treat that more in season.
That was the next question, guys. I mean, it's rolled on really well. But the next question was going to be on a game week when we're doing our game planning. We know that we have our scouts and our stuff that we have to work on. But in that game week practice, do you guys work on? I know Brian does because he's already just said it, but I know he did. But do you guys work on things like red zone, 2-point plays, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 7? Do you work on those situations and then focus on those points? Because you find sometimes that you know what you're doing, but it's those situational stuff that where your kick is missed 3 for extra points and you're not taking no more. You know, for well, some because the head coach could go, we ain't kicking no more, boys. That's it. It's on you now, I'll say. And you got to go the rest of the way. So is the times where you're just going to go, actually, we're going to spend 15 minutes working on this or this. And I'll let Ryan start because I know he does this.
Yeah, so all of our team period is situational stuff. So we don't really have kind of a free-for-all. Everything's 1st down stuff, 2nd down, 3rd down, backed up, going in, coming out. We did try and structure everything so it meant something in a game. We didn't want to just get 22 guys on a field and run plays. That didn't seem a good use of time for us, and we all know like time's precious with what we're doing. So we tried to make everything in terms of practice in that team period mean something and kind of give them some comfort on game day. That actually, if you start on the 2-yard line, actually we've done this in practice, it's not too bad. If you need to run that 2-point play, we've done that in practice. So that was how we structured all of our team period.
Boys?
I'm kind of exactly the same. So I'll have my kind of game call sheet that I'm going to use for the game at the weekend. I'll have that done before practice, and then that's what we're taking into that game. We try and limit it to like a certain number, so we kind of go in with like 20, 25 plays depending on what we need, and that's not kind of like 25 just completely independent plays. It's kind of different variations on different stuff. But we'll work through as much as we can in the period. Obviously, I'd love the time and the ability to work third down and short, and then 15 minutes of kind of third down and long, and kind of the time and stuff you'd have if you had more practices throughout the week. I know at uni it can be easier if you get those kind of 2 midweek practices. You can really work on scripting more and going off of that, but I found it's kind of practice for me for calling on a game day. So making sure that come kind of the Sunday game, I don't really have to look at that play call sheet because I've memorized the stuff that's on there, and I'm on 3rd and 1. I know this is what we're going to, and then all the guys that are executing it are doing the same thing. So yeah, super big on the situational stuff in season.
You want to go?
Yeah. So for me in game week, I sort of like take into like my defensive brain and think about, okay, so I've said previously, like I'm really into analytics. Like I like to know everything about my opposition, like what their tendencies are, what they do, when they do it. So what I do pre-practice, so like the Monday, Tuesday of game week, I'm sort of like reviewing all of my breakdown of my analytics, and I'm drawing up their defense, and I'm overlaying my plays over the top of it. It's like, okay, so these are my plays that I'm going to use, and I build up my sort of like my funky play card, because my basics, I know I'm going to run my basic plays, but I use the midweek to like put my funky stuff in. So if I know that they don't respond well to shifts, then we're going to have a bit of our funky stuff that we've repped, and we do, but we're trying not to do it too often against our own defense, because when we get to that game week practice, I want to stress our defense. I want to shift out to double stack wide receivers. I want to see what the defense does, and I want to see them panic and how they react, and look at these plays when they've not seen it before, the same way as my opposition hasn't seen it before very often. So, our little trick plays, because in warm-ups every game, I'm running a trick play in warm-up, because I know that DC, someone's going to say, hey, coach, they ran a triple reverse pass, and then they're looking at what we do with that. So it's like all of those really annoying little, okay, these shifts, and really focus on situational. But what we tend to do is we'll say, okay, we'll spot the ball on the 40. We've got 8 plays to get into the end zone, and I'm using my funky play calls, and I've got my standard plays on there, and I've got my 8 plays, and the team have got the 8 plays. So we'll go out there and just sort of, okay, let's run these 8 plays and get in the end zone, because it gives me sort of, as a play caller, then it's like, okay, I know it's my first play is my 1st and long, and then we'll see what we do, and we'll go 1st and 10. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go into my 2nd down plays. I know I've now got to make a big chunk, so it sort of then ties into my 2-minute drill as well. So it all sort of comes together. But yeah, I like to get that sort of funk in on the Wednesday practice, spend like a good amount of time talking about the opposition, like understanding what we're going to see. And I suppose that depends on the time of year. Game week 1, we would have less time focused on that, but by game week 8, you've seen enough film of your opposition or you've played them before, and you kind of got a good feel of what is really going to stress them. So yeah, it's repping those come on, let's go plays where you go, this is the one. Watch this. Watch the defense lose their mind. Yeah, I love that bit.
For me, if we're specifically talking about game weeks, prepping for an opponent, it's very unlikely we'll do any 11 on 11, that type of stuff, especially when we're playing 10 games in 14 weeks and 4 of those against the Blitz and the Warriors and things like that. So we can't just continually keep going 11 on 11. I find a lot of value in 11 on 11 in pre-season, just from a transition point of view. So rather than it being, we're concentrating on third downs or something, we have value in 11 on 11, just being able to go to fourth down and then transfer into a punt unit and that kind of thing. But we will tend to do more situational stuff in our skelly period. So, you know, backed up on the 2-yard line, as we were talking about earlier, we'll do that in our inside run. Third down and long, we'll do that in our pass skelly segment. But in terms of game week and prepping for an opponent, the critical part is, as we all know, is that we have to prepare for that opponent. It's no good just going through a generic practice. We want to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be for the Warriors or whoever it might be that I'm playing that weekend. And a lot of that's down to us as coaches and doing the film and the scout and things like that. But the critical thing I've found is that we've got a really good defense coordinator, Neil Edwards. There's a lot of conversation between the two of us in terms of, you know, he, not just from a point of view that he helps me decipher what the defenses they're running and vice versa, but also helping each other for that practice for the upcoming game. So, and what I mean by that is we're kind of blessed in the sense that we will be able to put out two or three strings per position. So our aim was to get to a point where my offensive ones, so to speak, would go against his defensive twos, and they would be showing all the looks that I want Neo to run as a defense, and then his defensive ones will go against our offensive twos, and I'll put out all the offensive stuff that he's deciphered about our opponent. And again, it won't be full 11 on 11 drives smashing each other's heads in. It'll be more, you know, we've seen that on, you know, third and long, they like to come out in this and run these 2 or 3 plays. And so he will scout those for me so that I can then run them for his starting defense, so to speak. So that's kind of where we got to before COVID started hitting. And hopefully that's what we'll be doing next year.
Well, we're running out of time. So last question will be, and I'm going to double it up. It's going to be, what's the best advice you've ever been given, or what's the best advice you could give to a new up-and-coming coach in LC to pass on and help him along his way? And I'll open the floor for anybody who wants to take it. It's up to you.
Yeah, I kind of just reiterate what I said in kind of the last question. The best one I got and the best one I would give would be, especially for practice, script everything. Make sure you have an exact plan of what you want to do going in, because it'll make executing that plan so much easier. And then obviously for a lot of us, practice can seem like a big blur. You get out there, it's 2 hours, high speed, it's high tempo, it's getting everything in. And then you sit back and it's like, well, damn, did we actually get in what we needed to get done? So it's nice to be able to look back on the film, sit down and watch that, having known, okay, I don't have to worry. I've gotten our full run set in. I know kind of our pass scale ran exactly as I needed it to. We got all the concepts in that we needed. So yeah, script for practice, script everything.
For me, it was why. So know your why. Why are you running that drill? Why are you installing that play? Why is that play even in your playbook? Why do you do what you do? Why do you believe what you believe to an extent? I think if you can find that balance of healthy questioning to the point where you could answer a player who questions and says, Coach, why are we running this play? And if your answer is, well, I saw Oregon run it yesterday, you're probably not going to get that same buy-in, right? So for me, it's understanding your own kind of system, knowing why you do it, why you want to do it, how that kind of translates back to you guys.
Yeah, for me, I think it's trying to surround yourself with the best possible coaches you can have. And I don't necessarily mean, you know, you're going to get 5 GB level positional coaches. I just mean in the sense that you as an OC have to know what Ryan was saying, have to know your why, know exactly what you're running and why, well before the players are even anywhere near interacting with you. And then the people around you have to understand that as well. So again, I've seen it before where, you know, the OC has his big plan, he knows what he's running, but the positional coaches don't really have the same level of understanding or why. They just kind of turn up and coach individual drills, and the OC is the one that's responsible for everything else. So surround yourself with good coaches, leave your egos at the door as an OC, but also as positional coaches, and ultimately have a goal every single practice, what you're going to achieve, and then, you know, review whether you've achieved that goal at the end of the day, and decide next week whether you're going to have to redo it or move on. So yeah, have a good staff would be my number one.
And then for me, it's something that I think in britball we're so bad at this, but we have to remember that we are selling a premium product. So it's an expensive sport. People pay a lot of money to do it, and we need to understand that we're actually selling, as like coordinators and coaches, we're selling this product to the players. So I speak to coaches all the time that say we can't get people down to practice, and we can't get them down. It's like, well, why can't you get people down? You need to look at what you're doing at practice. So what I did this year, so as I've come in as OC this year at Caesars, I've sort of sat down with the head coach and sort of said, this is what I want to do. But what I want to develop is I want guys to come to practice because they want to come to practice. So make your practice their game day. Make their practice something that they've already paid for, or they're going to pay £2 or whatever your club does. So make it worthwhile. Make it worth them being out in the rain and cold on a Wednesday night in January with frost on the grass, and you know there's steam coming out. Like, make it worthwhile. Make them want to come to practice, because practice is really, really cool and really fun. Not go to practice because coach said I have to go to practice. I mean, that absolutely kills me. You know, you see coaches like saying, it's like, you got to come to practice or you won't play. Like, I will play. Like, I know I'm going to play. I'm a like this guy saying, like, I'm an elite player. I'm going to play regardless of whether I come to practice. I want you to want to be at practice. And we don't do enough of, you know, the reaching out. Social media is so easy, and something that I try and do all the time is, like, I'm messaging my players all the time. Like, I know I've not seen Dave for 2 weeks. It's like, hey Dave, how you doing, man? I've not seen you for 2 weeks. Like, make him know that you care, but essentially he is your consumer. So give him what he's paying for. Yeah, that's the biggest one for me. Like, sell the product, give him a good product.
Well, gents, it's been another eventful evening. We could talk for absolute hours. I'm not joking. We've seen the questions. I'm not even a quarter of the way through, but we can't go forever. But so, again, I want to thank you all for joining us and taking your time and passing on your knowledge and your stuff onto new coaches. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And hopefully you'll all come back on again soon. So for now, I want to thank you all one last time, and I appreciate everybody. Thanks a lot. Take care.